Hello. I want to thank you for tapping in with me here again today for a little bit of evolution and truth. So, today I want to talk with you about what was probably the hardest yet most valuable lesson I've learned on my journey. And that is my experience of finding out I was just related to a bunch of people. Now, this took me by surprise because the entire time I gave those same people that I found that I was related to the title of family. Now, make no mistake about it, there is a clear distinction between family or just being related to people. So let me start off by making this clear from the very jump. I'm making this message to help others make the distinct difference between those two things. I'm not here to put anyone on blast or have me seem like I'm some sort of hero or make it like I'm better than anyone. The fact remains, I have two important things that I live by. And if you break one of those two things, I'm out. No questions asked. Now, the sad part is I was making excuses for those people that I called family for a very long time. So by doing this, that gave them the opportunity to break not just one, but both of those rules that I live by. Now, what are the two things that I'm talking about that mean the most to me? That is loyalty and respect. So before I get into any of that, I guess it would be helpful for you to first know how I define the two. So my view of family changed after being in the military for 20 years. When you're placed in environments, sometimes war zones with people that you don't even know that much, but you come to rely on, that makes you look at family a lot different. So family is something that I held very near and dear to me. So for me, family is those that are there for you when you need them. Family will always support you. You can rely and trust your family. If you're down, family is the first one to reach out that helping hand to pull you back up to your feet. And of course, your family is loyal. Of course, you're going to have disagreements. Nothing's perfect in the world, but those core things that I just spoke on are never broken. Now, being related to someone is just simply you share some DNA. You could be adopted or whatever the case may be. That same bond that I spoke about is not there, and you can see and feel the difference. The sad part is I was always just related to those same people that I called family. What I was doing for all those years was holding on to an idea of what family was. I would go off of words and not what was right in front of my face all that time. Now, if you're anything like me, family is something I hold in a very high regard. I did not wake up from this illusion or this spell, whatever the case may be. That was until I found myself. Now, even after I found myself, I still held on for a few more years in the hopes that they would change. My problem was I was letting love and loyalty cloud my better judgment. And for doing this, I paid dearly. Now, during my stages of evolution, I would communicate very clearly of how I was changing and how I would and would not allow things in my life. On several occasions, I told my mother that after serving in the military for 20 years, I would never give up my freedom or let anyone else control me. I also went on to state that nobody was above being removed from my life. The thing with me is I've always had a very small circle. So my circle went from the size of a hula hoop to what it is today is the size of a Cheerio. So I didn't realize all this time I was protecting my energy, but that's exactly what I was doing. Now, by nature, I've always been a giver. So I guess that's why I've been protective of my energy. I'll give my last to those that I love and those that I allow into my circle. For a long time, I would sacrifice myself for those that I love. Now, this was done out of fear and not love if you truly look at it. It was the fear of abandonment, the fear of being perceived a certain way. Now, this was stretched all the way back to childhood. I wasn't raised with a loving mother who would fill you with love and inspiration. She was mostly in her masculine energy, and that showed in a lot of different ways. For one, I can recall plenty of times, like, as I said, I've always been a giver, and I've always been loving, even as a child. So I would go up to my mother, be hugging and kissing on her, and as a mother, you telling your child, okay, that's enough. Like, that's enough, be giving her love. And I guess when I reflect back on it, I guess that was just me wanting to receive that back. But it was never, I never received that from my mother. Now, as far as for my father, he served in the Marines. He spent some time in Vietnam. So, of course, that came with a lot of challenges and being raised in a very strict household. So when I look back at my childhood interactions with him, I can remember the few times that we went fishing together. And on those trips, it was just fishing. It was no words. There was no building of a relationship, getting to know me in any kind of way. He never asked how was my day, gave me any life advice, asked if I had a girlfriend or nothing. There was nothing, no direction at all that came from him. I just remember him strictly as a disciplinary figure. So with that being the case, it was just him instilling fear into me, because that's the only way I saw him, because I was always on guard to make sure I didn't do something wrong. So actually the first time that I remember him actually saying I love you was when I was 23 and I was already in the military. We were hanging up the phone and he said, I love you. And I actually remember pulling the phone, I kid you not, away from my face and looking at it in shock. I was like, what the world? Because I've never heard those words come out of his mouth, let alone seeing him. I probably can count on 3 fingers the times that I see him embrace my mom, maybe give her hugs and kisses and say I love you to her. So there was no affection in that household being exchanged back and forth like that. Now, I also had a brother and a sister. So me and my brother were, I want to say 4 years apart. So 4 or 5 years apart. So we never grew up close. He was always doing his thing with his friends. So when I went to the military and then I retired from the military, I expected to come back home and build that relationship up with him when I retired. And I thought we'd probably start up a few businesses together. But he did that with other people. He would even tell me before those businesses started his ideas. Hey, I want to do this, and that. I'm like, cool. Hey, let's go. Let's do it. And he would get silent and go do it with somebody else. So he had no interest in building that relationship up. And when he needed me for anything, I was always there, always there. But the sad part was when I needed him for something, which was rare, he would always let me down. I know he was the type of person that would use people, and that was just him. I knew that. But I also saw it as this is my brother. He wouldn't do that to me. Yeah, right. So after being used over and over by him over and over, I finally snapped out of it. And then one day I went off on him and I told him off. Now, it was clear that the jig was up at that point, and he knew exactly where I stood at that point. So little did I know, he went behind my back and started a smear campaign on me around the family. Now, for me, I don't play those type games and talk about people and all this stuff that I would see being done on both sides of the family. I don't get down like that. When I first went home, I would see the divided side on my mother and my father's side of the family. How cousins would talk about each other. We'd have little get-togethers, and everybody would come over who was ever there first, and people started talking about people who haven't showed up yet. Then when those people show up, everybody would smile and act like nothing was wrong. I was like, wow, this is crazy. I can't believe these people just smile in your face and just sit there and talk about you when you're not around. So in my mind, I was like, man, I'm so glad my immediate family, we're so close and tight and we don't do this type of stuff. Yeah, little did I know. So basically, when I retired, I had no idea what was next in my life. When I retired, the military just stabbed me in the back right when I retired. So that wound was fresh. And that wound actually had me do a complete spiral down. Or maybe I'll talk about that in another message. But that pretty much put me in a very low place. And at the same time, my brother was constantly betraying me over and over. Then my son got in on the party and he betrayed me. So I was surrounded by betrayal, and it was a lot to carry. I was depressed. I was suffering from PTSD. It was the lowest part of my life, for sure, hands down. So during that time, there was no words of support, no upliftment from quote unquote family. So even in those times, if they needed me, I was there, right there. No doubt, right on time. Now, when I started to try to find myself, I started meditating. That's how I started it off. Then I started reading books, gaining knowledge, started to heal childhood traumas. And once I started healing, I became a target. When I was going out every weekend, drinking, messing with women, doing all these type things, it was fine for them because they still had some semblance of control, or didn't have anything to worry about at that point. Now, when I stopped doing all those things that was hurting me and I started healing, that's when I became a problem. But that's at the same time as when I stopped looking for love from people who were emotionally unavailable, and I started loving on myself. And of course, that became the problem. The things that I was once blind to, it's very clear that I can no longer make excuses for them. Now, I'm sure for both of my parents, they grew up in very tough environments. I heard about their upbringing, and of course, that just made them emotionally unavailable. And then, of course, with most families, if they have generational trauma, they just pass it down. They just keep passing it down. But with me, that buck stopped. I wasn't going to just keep living those same type things and just passing that down. So now, as I said before, I also had a sister. She was, I want to say, 6 years older than me. So she was way ahead of me. So once again, we didn't have that relationship of a bond either. Her and my brother was like 2 or 3 years apart. So they were always closer growing up. So that made me pretty much the black sheep of the family, which doesn't bother me. So when I started to accept what was, and I didn't blame them for anything. I saw them with love and tried to give them clues on how to heal. I gave them my all until I couldn't anymore. Now, once I saw that even my mother was against me, I knew I had to leave my hometown. Now, this was very hard for me to do because, as I said, I love family. So it was very hard for me to walk away. And as I said in the beginning, it was crystal clear we were related at that point and not family. And I was literally the only one living up to that title of family. So that clearly made them a winner. And I would have done anything, and they knew that was the fact. So they took well advantage of that. Now, the problem was they took my kindness for weakness. They never saw the side of me of giving someone the business. They only saw the kind, the side, the kind, the one that would always be joking with everybody, and I was always having fun and this, that, and the other. So I always chose to be pleasant and not let things hold me down very long. I even had a conversation once with my mother after seeing how some of the family disrespect each other. I told her people would be in for a huge shock if they ever crossed me like how I see them do each other. They would not believe what they would see. I'm very observant. I don't judge people. I'll be cool with you, see right through your mask, let you wear it. Now, if you cross me and I let you have it, that's usually the time that I tell you everything I see. So that's usually not the time people want to hear their faults. So usually that bruises the ego and their defenses go up. But until you cross me, I don't say anything because I don't judge you. You are who you are. Now, this has definitely been the abbreviated version of my story. I'm saying all this not to put anyone down or look for any sympathy. I'm telling my story so you don't have to stay in the same situation I did for so many years just because of a title. These titles of family, mother, father, sister, brother, aunt, uncle, it does not matter. If these people are not showing you the support, it might be advisable for you to love them from a distance. I tried to communicate how I felt, not for weeks, not months, but years. I had to put me first. For the first time, I put me first for literally the first time for over 40 years. I always put others above me. And when I started to put myself first, I could see and feel the difference that made. It made me heal a lot faster. And as I healed, that pain that I was being caused by those that I called family was just too unbearable. So I had to walk away. Not to mention the amount of energy I was giving away, which kept me with an empty cup. Family is probably the hardest thing on earth to walk away from. Trust me when I say I had a hard time doing this. But I can't help you if helping you is going to hurt me. Now, I was tired of being the scapegoat. I was tired of looking for love from those who were emotionally unavailable. Don't look for approval in others. Be proud of yourself. Fill your own cup up. Now, even though the military added to those traumas that already exist from childhood, they did help me in a lot of other ways. It taught me discipline, for one. It also taught me how to be a leader. Now, this was the side that those that I am related to failed to see. They could only see the little naive kid that went into the military. And then when he came out of the military, I was immediately in my lowest season of my life at that point. So they never saw the real me. I never saw the real me until I discovered who I truly was or am. Now, when they kept applying more and more heat, more pressure, they expected me to crumble. But instead, they created a diamond, something that was hard and was shining. And that shine is what aggravated them. Now, once that happened, the leader popped back out in me. Now, the one thing with being a leader is that you have to be capable of making hard decisions. And I was able to do just that. And in this case, that decision was choosing myself. Don't invest your time and energy or love where it is not reciprocated. Definitely not reciprocated back equally. Go off of actions and not words. Now, that reminds me of a saying that stuck with me for a very long time that my grandmother used to say. And she would say, when someone show you who they are, the first time, you better believe them. Now, when I hear that, and you repeat it back, she says someone. She don't say friend, best friend. That's someone. And anyone can be someone. That's mother, father, brother, sister, cousin, uncle, does not matter. When somebody show you who they are, you have to believe that's who they are. And it was crazy because I could always see people for who they were outside of family. For family, like I said, I found myself making excuses. Oh, no, that's not what this is. Oh, that's not what they're doing. But that's exactly what they were doing. But I would be blinded by that love and that loyalty, like I said. Now, before we close up this message, I want to read from Matthew 10. Matthew 10:34. Think not that I come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. For I come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And the man's foes shall be they of his own household. He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he that loveth son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he that taketh his not his cross and followeth after me is not worthy of me. He that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. Now, very, very powerful scripture. And the crazy part is when I got on my journey, I was reading everything because I love knowledge. So I was diving into everything, the Bhagavad Gita, Buddhist scriptures, looking up philosophers. And I had really, to be honest with you, I've always been turned off of religion because I could see a lot of people that go to church, in my experience. Those are the most judgmental people that I came across, and they were not living up to what they were learning, so to speak, in the Bible. So I didn't even really go into the Bible, and the only reason I went into looking into scriptures because all the things that I was finding, and I was like, okay, now let me find this in the Bible so I can, because my mother would always go to church every Sunday. As I said, people aren't living up to what they're doing. So she was literally the only reason I started diving into the Bible. So the things that I was learning, I could reflect into a language that she could understand because that's what she was wanting. So I was finding these scriptures and saying things to her all the time so she could understand in the language that she spoke to help her heal some of those things. So as I said, for those that I love, I will go above and beyond. But just like that scripture said, the people of your own household, a lot of the times are the ones that you have to watch out for the most. So, and that's what I discovered. So if you're not able to walk away from, quote unquote, your mother or your father, if they're going down the wrong path, then your journey is going to be limited. This life is built, essentially, easiest way to describe it is on levels. And it really depends on what level you're trying to get to. And when I got on my journey at first, I made a lot of promises to the divine, to God, the Father, whoever you want to call it. I made a lot of promises. And for me, personally, when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And especially making promises to who I was making promises to, then that means no one can be above those promises. So I found it hard, but once again, I had to walk away from family because once I found out that I was just related to them anyway, which still didn't make it easy to walk away, but I did it. And like I said, I'm putting out this message so you can do it. And you don't have to stay in that same situation for years on end, putting out your energy for it only to be taken and not reciprocated back to you. So if you can, hopefully, I'm putting out this message in it, and I hope no one relates to this message, because if you relate to this message, then that means you're going through or went through the same thing that I did. But for those that you do have, it resonates with you, don't stick around in a situation where you're giving out all this energy, because as I said in the previous video, everything is energy. And those energy ties that you have with family are the most dangerous, because those ties are a lot deeper within your heart. And just because you holding up to that title of family doesn't mean that they are. And I had to find that out the hard way, that titles mean absolutely nothing. If it's in someone's nature to do something, they're going to do it. It doesn't matter the title. which brings me another a joke that I heard, or fable or tale, or however you want to say it, but it goes like this. It was a frog and a scorpion. And there was a huge flood coming, so all of the animals knew that they would be safe on the other side. They had to cross this river, and if they got to the other side of the river, they would be safe. So all of these animals at the river jumping in and crossing the river that could. So the scorpion made its way down to the river, and he saw a frog right when it was about to jump in. And he asked the frog, "Hey, can you let me climb on your back and you take us both on the other side of the river? I can't swim. And you know this flood is coming and it's going to kill me, and I don't want to die." And the frog was like, "Are you kidding? If I let you on my back, all you're going to do, we're going to get halfway across, you're going to stab me in the back, and then we're both going to drown." And he's like, "Now, why would I do that? You just said it. If I stab you, we both drown." So the frog thought about it, and he's like, "Okay, you know what? You're right." Okay, so he let the scorpion get on, and they got halfway across, and boom, like clockwork, scorpion stabbed him in the back, and he said, "Ow, what are you doing? That's stupid. Now we're both going to die." And the scorpion just looked and said, "I'm sorry. It's just in my nature." So it's the same thing. It doesn't matter who or what it is. If it's in someone's nature, as my grandmother said, when somebody show you who they are, you better believe them. All these things that I just said tie right in with each other. So if your quote unquote family shows you that you're just related, then you need to treat it as such and just love them from a distance. I have no ill will, no hate. And like I said, this was just the abbreviated version of everything I went through. You have no idea. I might touch on it in maybe in a different message, because this message would have been, we're 27 minutes in. This message would have been a lot longer if I would have went into all of the things that I put up with for a very long time. And it was, like I said, out of loyalty and love. And family was literally, I knew going back home, family was the only chink in my armor, because no one from my past would have been allowed to do the things that I allowed them to do on the guise of being family. So, as usual, I hope hopefully you didn't get anything out of this message. But if you did, I ask that you go ahead and, like I said, click that like button and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next message. Thank you.